Well, thanks for letting me know it was live.
This week on the Squatchers Lounge podcast, David the Reverend Jeff go over, stick structures. That was it, yeah. Oh. Do we have some news for you? We've got so much news. I don't even know how this show's going to be an hour long. This is what happens when we take a week off. I needed a week off. And now I give to you the man who's always on. Your host, the Reverend Jeff Kelly.
That's right, I'm your host, the Reverend Jeff. And sitting over there is the Dr. Dave Batdorf, that is, Doctor of Pseudoscientist. That's right, accredited by the Squatchers Lounge podcast. How you doing, buddy?
Ready to do another show. We've been sending links back and forth like nobody's business to go over for the news at bits. So, man,
we even had to cut some at Showtime that were really good, but there's just too much good stuff out there to talk about tonight. So, as usual, let's get a little newsy with it. Hey, everybody that's out there in YouTube land, if you're logged in by computer, you can talk to us via chat. See right there? Hi, that's me. Life and Times of JCM is on board for us for Camping for Stupids tonight. Hello to Dick Jones, Squatchy Inc. That's right. That's your old pal, Wes. Rod Dupree. I know I saw our quasi-theorist out there. I'm sure all things Squatchy are going to happen in the chat room tonight. So if you're not out there, you're not cool. Let's get into it tonight. Is it possible that pre-modern human species may exist in the present day? Well, it seems mysterioussuniverse.org thinks so. In 1989, an archaeological excavation was underway in China's Yunnan province, and the ancient cave site bordering a lush, sprawling evergreen forest. To anthropologists, the cave bore certain promise with the numerous bones that were scattered along its floor. Evidence of fires could be seen also, having been built there for over thousands of years, that it served as shelter for ancient humans that came and went through it. These people hunted deer in nearby forests, piling their bones in there by their fire pits they built. Thus, their remnants has such ancient practices were borrowed in the name given to the site. I can't pronounce it, but it means Red Deer Cave. So tell us about the Red Deer Cave for a moment there, Captain.
Well, this is a really interesting spot, and it's very near some of the places where they found like legit Gigantopithecus fossils. The one thing I will say is that this particular article may not have the appropriate imagery to go along with any of that. Like that right there is actually Homo heidelbergensis, if I am not mistaken. It's a famous fossil. The skull down there, and up above here. So there's your Homo heidelbergensis, and up above here, I believe that is Paranthropus robustus.
Yeah, way back in the gene pool.
Yeah. So we're talking, but they were not way back. I mean, it's still a really long time, but looking at more into that 700 to 350,000 years ago versus these guys are cool. And there's been more news about the Red Deer Cave people recently. Still not a lot of genetics, but they're starting to get the first sequences out of a leg bone. There was a jaw, and they were hoping to get stuff out of the teeth and yada yada yada, which is still not that specimen. The specimen is really cool, and it's got these really flared out cheekbones. It doesn't look like any other known.
It's just not in here anywhere.
They've not got any of that right. But anyway, it's really cool because the leg bone that they found could date up to 14,000 years ago, which puts it straight into the time of hunter-gatherers that were probably living in very much the same ways as the indigenous peoples of North America were living at the time that we came over, some 10,000 years later.
Right. And it's an interesting article. It's a way that they think is, possibly what Sasquatch is somewhere along that line. Its own evolutionary path went off and Kazowie. There it is. So,
but it just shows that there is a hitherto unknown hominin that was discovered in the bones, but it's probably got nothing to do with Sasquatch.
yeah, probably not. Giant squid captured on camera in Japanese Bay swimming alongside divers. Yeah, that
Speaking of monsters, oh my
God. That puts me going into Japanese Ocean. Yeah, we all know how I feel about Japan. If you don't, go check out last week's Bigfoot Entertainment Weekly. The end segment will tell you how I feel about Japan. But yeah, definitely. Oh my God, dude, look at this thing. It's a monster. Justin Smeha said he shot the Bigfoot because it was a monster and it didn't belong. I would have killed this thing if I was in a boat. Give me a harpoon.
If you were in the water, you would have just prayed that it
didn't eat me.
So the crazy thing is, like with the video, it comes up and you can find this out there. It's IFL Science, I think is where we grabbed this from, but it comes up and interacts with the divers, and it's not like, the Humboldt squid that comes up and like grabs your hand or whatever. There's a little beak in there. No, like it's like wrapping around the person's body, and you're like, there's no, like, it could just eat your heart out at that point, and you'd had no recourse.
This squid was not damaged and looked lively, spurting ink, trying to entangle its tentacles around me. Yeah, no, thank you, Mr. Kimura. I appreciate your bravery and all, but. Yeah,
it would be really cool, but this is the Kraken.
Yeah, that definitely is the Kraken. So check that one out at IFL Science. I try to get the video to play, but yeah, we know how that goes.
Yeah.
All right, humans broke off Neanderthal sex after discovering Eurasia. No Eurasia for you, bitch. I mean, what's up with this? All of a sudden, we're fine to mate with the Neanderthals, la 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 la, and look at all this land. we don't have to, oh, really? Oh, okay. Is this where they started out with the Smiths, keeping up with the Joneses?
It could be. So the interesting thing, I'm trying to read the last couple things, but when they're talking about the most recent,
47,000 years ago is the last sex behavior between Neanderthals and modern humans likely occurred.
And when they say the last sex, the meaningful points using the genetic clock, because we really don't know. It wasn't written down.
Right. There's no law. Dear diary, tonight I banged that ugly, big, thick brow girl. No, we don't have anything like that.
And she's a dirty, dirty girl.
Dirty girl. Dear diary, day 2. She's really, really dirty.
So what it's kind of showing is like that, if you look at the migration, you look at the gene flow that we see from modern humans, and they're trying to extrapolate information from Neanderthals. There's only a few specimens that we've gotten good genomes from. Interesting stuff, but it really does show that once the greener pastures were seen, or once we essentially forced Neanderthals out of Europe, and the Middle East is where it would have happened first. So once we forced them out of the Middle East, and then we rejoined them for the final coup d'etat.
Dear diary, day 3, I took my brother Bubba with me. She's a seriously dirty bitch.
So this is really cool stuff to kind of and so 47,000 years ago, and 17,000 years later, they're gone.
Yeah, it sucks. It's day 4 never came around. I guess that was the time they were in the Eurasian continent. Check them out. Live Science. They're always great stuff. TheSlate.com. Electroejaculation is an undignified but efficient way to save endangered species. Well, I couldn't tell you that firsthand because I've never actually been electroejaculated.
So my deal here is often with potentially hazardous foods that we actually prepare in different ways. Like there's certain mushrooms that if you cook the right way, so my first question always is well, who was trying this out to figure out how it worked? And that's my same question here.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is there's gonna be interns everywhere.
What I'm gonna do is put this taser in the anus of the elephant, and I'm just gonna shock the crap out of his prostate. And ta-da! Simple.
Well, I don't think they're awake when they do this. I don't think it would be smart for you to be awake while you do this. I'm pretty sure they put these animals to do a nice slumber while they milk their ejaculate.
You know, you ever seen those SeaWorld? Maybe he was
dolphins,
just
boy.
maybe that intern was just tired of. He's like, this elephant's taking forever. I got a faster way.
Let me take care of this real quick there, Chief. So, yeah.
And once again, thus proving that humans suck.
Yeah, 100%. Humans are horrible, horrible creatures.
That's a happy ending with no happy story.
That's right. I'm really hoping this loads. It's been trying to freak me out all night. But a San Diego man distracted by a cell phone plummets to death from Sunset Cliffs. You deserved it. Is exactly what he'd be hearing if he fell off the cliff while I was there.
His last tweet on the way down, #FML.
That's right. A San Diego man reportedly in his 30s fell to his death in the strangest of ways after he walked off a cliff because he was distracted by his electronic device, according to officials. So, moral of the story is, when you're going to Sunset Cliff with your girlfriend to push her off, leave your phone in the damn truck.
He was just texting his buddy back home like, all right, I'm going to do it.
3, 2, oh shit. I mean, that's just so ridiculous. I don't know if the Inquisitor is true or site or not, but I'm sure this has actually happened.
It's believable if nothing
more
else.
than one time. Talk about human sucking. This is a whole lot of sad. Chimpanzees in the snow. Come on, guys. These are tropical people. And I do call them people. I mean, as the more we really learn about these creatures, these beings, I give people a hard time. They're not humans, okay? To call them human is to give away what makes you human. But they are a type of people, a type of being, and it just sucks to keep them in these kind of conditions.
Yeah, well, this is actually, they're this is a sanctuary up in Washington that I follow, and actually there were more pictures today that had them with like children's sand trowels, just digging, and it's like it just said the best snow excavation crew ever. So, so their crew actually goes through and excavates these trails for them to walk in, and they're experiencing snow. Like, the whole idea is that these chimpanzees are never going to be wild. They're never going to be wild chimpanzees. They're never going to be re-released, but they allow them to be chimpanzees, to be inquisitive and to go out and to play. And it's, I mean, talk about mind explosion. It's like the first time you've ever been outside. How about the first time you've ever seen it snow? Like, what the heck? So anyway, they're out there experiencing that. They're not out there for very long because they do get cold quickly. But yeah, definitely an awesome image, and it harkens back to the Sasquatch and some of the problems with a large ape in the cold like this. But yeah, so what do you need to do to overcome that? And that's kind of why I was like, oh, that's really cool, but also there's some problems, and how do you overcome that? Well, we've kind of addressed that on several of the shows somewhere.
Yeah, and if you look at the zoos and stuff, especially in places where they keep large primates where it's cold, we went to the Sacramento Zoo on a typical, what we thought was a typically warm day. It turned out to be a very chilly day, and the orangutans were huddled up with their blankets in the corners. I mean, they were smart enough to grab something and cover themselves with it to stay warm. They had access to the inside, but they were just okay with just laying out there covered up in their blankets. So, I don't think it is that they learn. I just think that they have an intelligence level enough to figure that out.
Yeah, and to also to know when they're uncomfortable and they go back inside. The other post that I was just looking at today, because this is from several days ago, one of the chimpanzees got cold and went back inside, and the other one just sort of like went and just hung out and just enjoyed and just watched and
ate the snow.
Watch it for the elk that come and visit them, because apparently they like to interact with the elk as well.
When they start to learn to write their name in the snow, that's when we've got problems. Okay,
yeah. Well, there's only one male in there, so
Ganu. All right, go register your drone right now, because your credit card will be required. It's the time has come, folks. The FAA is absolutely tired of these friggin' drones just running amok out there, and you people don't think there's anything wrong with it, but you are seriously violating usable airspace by regular private and commercial aircraft, anywhere above 500 feet. And if you're flying this thing within 5 miles of an airport, you're actually in a violation and can be charged with a felony. You know, there are a lot of rules that go with aircraft that can fly above 500 feet. That's why experimental aircraft have to fly under 500 feet. So now that we have all these drones running around out there that can fly up to 1,500 feet, people are irresponsibly using them, and you get caught flying these things around now, you very well may look at some type of a fine.
I'm sure that there will be fines. It's who gets to distribute them and whatnot, and so it's taking your drone up into the valley lake and running it around, probably not going to be jeopardizing everything, but again, you're using a craft that can go to a particular height. I mean, you think it's just like the radio towers that are around your house, and they have lights on them, and they're only 50 feet tall, because there's a potential that helicopters or personal aircraft will need to know that they're there. Beacons on the top of hills, and yada yada yada. There's a really good chance that when we have thousands of these things in the air, that somebody's either commercial passenger or like a government plane or helicopter is going to crash into one of these things, and it's going to kill some people because they are so popular, and there are a ton of them in the air. And I have friends that post stuff all over the place, but really, once you get more than 100 feet up, you start to invade the airspace that we have helicopters that run up and down pipelines and all of this, all sorts of other stuff at 100 feet or less. So it's really important that that you're free to fly. That's important.
Pay attention to what you're doing out there with your drones, people, because they're nothing to play with. Well, apparently they are. Live science again. We're right back into it. Neanderthals had why humans have slender faces and Neanderthals don't. Neanderthals had a protruding facial features because of the way their bodies deposited and dealt with bone, a new study finds. In Neanderthals, facial bone deposits continue into the teenage years, whereas in humans, Homo sapiens, that would be, bone removal during childhood leads to a flatter face. The researchers had found that Neanderthals, that the closest extinct relatives of humans, lived in Eurasia from about 200,000 to 30,000 years ago. However, their protruding jaw, noses, brow raises questions about how and when and the Neanderthals separated. God, why do I sound like friggin' Max Headroom tonight?
So this is fascinating because this is exactly how, because we are so close. If we only really split from Neanderthals between 5 and 200,000 years ago, that's pretty wide range. But we met up with each other and had relations quite often, apparently. So it's hard to really break it apart. But the things that made Neanderthals
married day 4, cousin Timmy decided.
So the things that make Neanderthals and the things that make humans, obviously a portion of that are the genes that regulate this bone growth in the face. I mean, but that's exactly how evolution works. That's exactly what we expect to see in speciation, where we were the same thing. We all had the same kinds of faces. We all grew the same faces, to where you grow different faces. And that's what makes you a separate species, or even sometimes a subspecies. But in this case, you would almost truly call it a different species, because you can actually see the biological mechanism that deposits calcium after a certain age to make a protruding jawline and to make a protruding brow. And it's amazing that we can find those biological processes, because we can assume those back to our ancestors, because the same protruding jawline and the same protruding brow was so the jaw, the actual upper jaw was not as protruding in Homo heidelbergensis, but the brow ridge was as protruding. So you could almost infer some of those differences back, and then look for that, and maybe we've actually sequenced something that we could consider Homo heidelbergensis. Very fascinating stuff. And
the more DNA we discover, the more we'll learn about these amazing ancestors.
Well, exactly, and it shows the biological process behind one of those things. Like we always talk about, it's not how we're the same, because in a lot of ways we are. Most of the ways we are, it's what makes us different, and it actually it shows us the biological process, which is really, really interesting stuff. Yeah, we can look at our own our own version of that, and okay, so this is how we grow bone, and so they maybe grow bone this way. We're still inferring, we're guessing that it would, we don't really know that, but it would make sense that if their jaws protrude farther than ours, that they probably grew, they deposited calcium for longer.
Right.
So
that's usually how it works.
And we remain baby face. And if you look at our love for baby schema would be why we would be more attracted to ourselves and proliferate that line, because we do have some things that are undeniably, like, everybody loves babies. If you make something with big eyes and faces that are small, and we love that. So maybe that's the thing. We like the brachiocephalic, the smush face of ourselves versus other apes, and that's why we became so distinctly different than other apes.
Cause Caveman Bubba's diary started out, "Dear diary, I tried to bang that cute faced chick from the Homo sapien camp, but she said no. So instead I found this big brown bitch from up around yonder." It's gonna be a matter of convenience or not convenience when the mixing of the species would have been. I mean, it would have had to have been out of desperation of the Neanderthals, if anything else. Well, as the Neanderthals dwindled, there would have just been no more Neanderthals to breed with.
Yeah, but there was so long where we probably weren't that much different from each other. And contemporary humans, like we still have 90,000 years of evolution away from our species emergence as well. So that's interesting. For sure.
Exactly. Well, you can check that one out at livescience.com, because I think we've beat it to death. Okay. 3D fossil reveals our last common ancestor with Neanderthals.
We were just talking about that.
Heidelbergensis, the Homo Heidelbergensis. Yeah, I mean, this is the things that are just they're constantly unveiling more connections between the species over and over again. And like we're talking about being able to predict one way of biology to be able to predict it in another species.
Yeah. So the interesting thing, when if you look at the old Darwinian line of the ape that stands up or whatnot, this completely contradicts that and is exactly what we're talking about, where this specimen is older than either Neanderthal or modern humans or any of the things that came in between. Yeah. This predates our split from the Neanderthal. However, it looks more like both of us. It looks like Neanderthal, like if Neanderthal was the old one and then you put this one in the middle and it looked like it would flow towards us, right? No, it's that we both diverged separately and we changed in our own ways from this guy, which is why it looks kind of like both of us. And when we start to put things together in perspective like that, where this is that branch split in the tree, and you really look at it for a second, God, that looks so much like modern Homo sapiens, but it also has these Neanderthal things. It's like, okay, well, the things that make that look Neanderthal, the Neanderthal just went and ran with, and the things that make those look that makes that look modern human, we went and ran with. And that's what's fascinating about Heidelbergensis. And I can't get over the fact that people keep talking about this being Sasquatch. Yes, there were a couple specimens that were up into the 6 foot tall range, which when everybody else was around 4.5 to 5, big dude, right? Big dude, but not Sasquatch big and not Sasquatch features whatsoever. Look at it.
Right. Yeah, very much human, no crest, no pointed coned head, no apish.
Big freaking brain. Yeah. Yeah.
So you can check that one out at IFL Science, like we always do. I'm about friggin' Heidelbergensis is out tonight. Mm-hmm. The Telegraph tells us an ancient human ancestor may have persisted through the Ice Age. That's right. After years of studying a mysterious thigh bone from a cave in China, scientists said on Thursday they believe it represents an ancient species of human that persisted much longer than previously thought. The 14,000-year-old bone was uncovered in 1989 in Maladong, also known again as in the Red Deer Cave. So we just talked about this. What the hell am I thinking tonight?
We're double dipping, but
I'm
look,
double dipping on this one. But this is the femur bone that we were talking about earlier. I was like, what the hell is he talking about? Leg bone?
But
that's right. There's another article about it.
But if you go up to that picture, this one's also using that's a Neanderthal rendition. Like this is a Spanish Neanderthal, by the way, from French from La Pharmacie is where that specimen.
I always thought Gerard Depardieu was a Neanderthal,
but so anyway, why can't these guys get it right? The skull is fantastic looking, and it shows something that's totally different than any of the other skulls that we just looked at, but they keep putting the wrong stuff up there. Do your research, people.
Yeah, so this is the thigh bone that we were talking about earlier with the Red Deer Cave people. That one came from the telegraph.co.uk. Yay, us. Okay. Shell fossil site reveals the oldest evidence of brood care. What does that mean? That means where the mama stays behind or the daddy stays behind and takes care of the babies. So here we are. We're in the evolutionary gene pool of sludge, and we're not even really... we're multi-celled organisms at this point. We have some limbs, maybe some eyeballs, and all of a sudden now we find it's important to take care of the young. Did I lose you?
I'm still here.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was like, wait a second. Now, what the heck are we talking about here? Brood care, where adult carries its eggs or juveniles to help increase the survival on an important evolutionary step. However, little is known about when this strategy began. News research published in the journal Current Biology Today, curator of the invertebrate paleontology and association professor in the Department of God bless it, I didn't read all of this earlier like I should have. The fossils are 508 million years old. That's what I was looking for.
508 million years old.
So here, they've got this friggin' this fossil, and they've stuck it under the electron microscope, and what do they find? They find the eggs inside of this thing.
Eggs inside. Brood care, which is not... not something that egg laying was common at the time, but this brood care is what became why we eventually 500, let's just go with 400 or 450 million years later, we developed a uterus.
Uterus. So it only took us, a gazillion years to go from this to
from eggs on the inside to we're gonna grow our baby on the inside. But this is the first or the oldest version of that. So that's why that's important, is because it shows, hey, look, this is the first time they're like, hey, I could just carry my babies with me. I don't have to just leave them all mamby-pamby.
Yeah, it's an important thing to check it out. So rom.on.ca, and you can check out that one for yourself. Finally tonight, through the news, this one is pretty friggin' cool. Caught this one out of the Monster X group on Facebook. 25 hikers and backpackers revealed the creepiest, scariest things they've ever found in the woods. It was a miracle. My friends and I found a 22-year-old girl face down in the mud, both legs broken with compound fractures. She had no cell phone, no water, no food, and nothing to keep her warm, and her friend was already dead. Wow. Yeah, that's an incredible story. You can go home and tell your friends. Number 2, an assailant and an unconscious victim. Yeah, what do you do when you walk up on somebody who's knocked somebody out and they're going to do nefarious things to them in the woods? I mean, do you just let it happen, or do you take care of business?
I'm just going to, I really need to see the viewpoint. See you later.
Yeah, I got to go. Weird Latin phrase. Now, this one would freak you out. The words per audacia ad ignatum, drawn in the snow in the absolute middle of nowhere, yet no footprints are around them. The words were probably a few hours old. The closest translation they could find were through audacity towards the unknown. So, who hovers in the middle of a field and writes words in the snow with no footprints that lead away? Ghosts.
Yeah, that's interesting. If there are no footprints in and out.
Took my children to a cave not far from the house, popular spot, but we had a place to ourselves, and you can walk through it about 30 minutes without too much difficulty. It has a tiny exit at the opposite end. It was pretty muddy, so we decided to turn around and head back to the entrance. Halfway back, there was a lit candle sitting about 8 feet up one side, and it was definitely not there when they went through on the first trip. Yeah, that's no. So thoughtcatalog.com, dude, go check this one out. There's 25 of them in there, and they just get creepier and creepier as you go along.
Yeah, no, knowing somebody is there when you don't know that they're there or you don't know where they are, that's always freaky. And yeah, we all go out into the woods, have a good time, and then with the Sasquatch on the mind, you start to let it play tricks on you, and that sort of thing would just set you over the edge.
Yeah, lit candles halfway down with your kids and all that kind of freak us out. Hey, Dave, you know what time it is? It's time for the camping tips. It's time for our camping tips from Jevin.
Doing it.
Going to do it now. I probably should have given you just a bit more warning, but, hey, what can I tell you? It's just going to be one of those weeks, man.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's just gonna be one of those weeks. Ow!
Was there another? Oh, here I got it now. Here, stand by.
Stand by. More dead air than AM radio. That's right.
Well.
That's how we close out the season on the Squatchers Lounge podcast. We don't give a flying boop.
Yeah, pretty much.
Burning up the airways because we can.
Camping tips for stupids. Tip number 2. The woods is a wild, dangerous place. Kinda like Detroit if Detroit was Detroit. Don't be stupid. Bring a fucking gun. Not only do you have to watch your ass for bears, cougars, and the off-grid hillbilly who thinks you got a pretty mouth, you got a class of high-order predatory cryptids on top of that shit. You got your big feets, your dogmen, your skunk apes, your pterodactylians, and the great protector Catardin to round out the most common ones. And UFOs. Don't forget the damn UFOs. Want to be like that guy in Fire in the Sky? Stay in the fucking truck. The point is, stupids, go armed, go ready, and go out with a blaze of glory. This has been Camping Tips for Stupids, and may the Sam Squitch be with you.
And you can catch out the video at The Life and Times of JCM. You can find them posted in facebook.com/groups/S Lounge. That's right. You can find it at the lounge. My head, NyQuil has just got my head just floating all. However, we are going to talk about our topic of the night, which is, so David and I talk all the time. Tree structures. What are tree structures? Why do people think that Bigfoot make tree structures? And I don't. I personally, people say that this is a Bigfoot tree structure. I don't really see the Bigfoot tree structure here. I see a bunch of trees that have fallen over and piled up against each other because there's a bunch of other fallen down trees all over every foot. There's a fallen down friggin' log. What is special about this one because it's piled up? Maybe somebody used it for a shelter. I don't know. But why would we contribute this to a Bigfoot?
Well, the interesting thing to me, is the why. You have to remember that this is not a creature that's probably, even if it has some form of culture, is probably not going to do things for no reason, because it wouldn't make any sense. It wouldn't justify the food, shelter, yada yada yada. If this were a shelter, we would see debris of said shelter, or other instances of that. Like maybe this is the beginning of a shelter. But what I see when I look at this is, obviously there's a bunch of deadfall. It's all over the place. Things are falling down. There's an initial tree or initial branch that's been caught in here, and then everything else is just sort of piled on top of that one branch that created a crook for things to fall in. And that's, so it's caught everything else that's come down. That's a natural thing. This also could be just something that somebody put together to remind them of a spot. Now, would Sasquatch do that? It's possible, but why would they do that right here?
Well, let's play a couple of rounds of Sasquatch shelter or camper shelter. Okay, I mean, here I'm seeing this in the middle of an open field. It is a bunch of wood, dead fallen, piled up together. I don't see any debris around it, but it looks really, really old. I mean, that bleached wood, that's been sitting in that exact spot for a very, very long time. I don't call it Bigfoot.
I don't even know if that, like, it doesn't even look exactly like that. Doesn't look like a structure to me. That looks like where all these trees have obviously been cut. This looks like a slash pile. They're just going to burn this debris. They've taken everything they want out. They clean up that and slash pile.
Okay. We talked about that one. Bigfoot or camper? Now, everybody talks about these big piled up structures along the trees. I say camper, of course, because of all the debris that's piled all around it. But when all that debris deadfalls and falls away, those big, large logs are still going to be there later on. And that's what people are finding in the woods.
Exactly. And when everything else decays, and but it takes a long time to do that. But if you look around at the litter and at the, are there, there's going to be small pieces of the remains of the stuff that was piled on top on or mixed in these logs. And is that, can you see it? Is it there? Very, very curious, but probably not Sasquatch. Could it be? Yes. We know that orangutans make nests. I'm sure that they're physically capable of taking these medium-sized, sticks down and piling stuff on there. But the question again is why? And why make a temporary shelter when you could just use something that was already there?
An overhang,
like a cave. Yeah, find yourself a cave, or maybe even just an overturned root structure, etc., etc.
I remember seeing this one come out the other day. This was the most fantastic Bigfoot structure ever found. Look, it can fit 2 of my kids inside. But, could it even fit a Bigfoot inside? I mean, these creatures are claimed to be 6 to 8 feet tall. If you were building something this big, would you build it for just one? Is your whole family of Sasquatch living in there with you? You
can pack them in there tight. I actually have a bunch of these in the woods that's not even really like more than 2 or 3 acres and abuts residential. And yes, the kids make this. And unless Sasquatch has a bow saw, I'm pretty sure that those are all cut. Yeah.
But we're talking about, these structures have been designed for hundreds of years. The pioneers used to use these types of structures. Trappers used, fishermen, hunters, all kind of people would build these types of structures in the woods as hunting shelters, as hunting blinds, as all kinds of things. These are parts of the reasons that I fail to see why we need to equate them up to Bigfoot when they're a cool find all in themselves. I mean, take away the water bottle and the jacket here, let the wind blow for a couple of days, and you've got some very strangely piled up sticks all over this weird log.
Absolutely. And somewhere that's probably somewhat inaccessible, not easily accessible. Let's put it that way. But accessible because obviously somebody with a water bottle and a coat went ahead and built that. But once it's been, taken apart slightly by wind and by rain and by decay and everything else, that's going to look kind of weird, don't you think?
Yeah, it's going to look absolutely strange.
Might look kind of like that.
Right. I mean, this is pretty much the types of structures that you would be left with behind after all the litter and debris had, fallen away from it. These types of structures, this may even be flood pileup. I really can't tell how tall this is off of the ground. When water flows, it sticks up next to trees unnormally. It looks like it's done on purpose, and it sticks them from time to time. But there's just example of woodland shelters that are made this way that are, they're broken sticks. They're not cut sticks. They're whatever the case may be. I just don't see a reason that we have to equate these up to Bigfoot.
And as far as the structure, I mean, this is, this right here, this shape is a very important shape for all structures like that man has created. So would Sasquatch necessarily use that, or would it maybe just the lean-to, the flat-sided version is more important? We talk about this structures to be in. We talk about the stick X structures and all sorts of other stuff, but for me, a lot of it is coincidental. But the stuff like this has obviously been built. But this is something that we do and we have done. Is it impossible for Sasquatch to do? No, but again, why are they doing it? Is it to hang out in? Is it so that we, and be easily spotted? It seems like we would see them building more things than just a teepee in that situation.
And that's what, take a long, hard look at what you're actually dealing with in the woods, and the chances are you're not going to equate that to Bigfoot. You're going to equate that to people. Doesn't mean that it's any less cool. I would love to find something like this. I've never actually found anything like this. Well, I shouldn't say that. We found a lot of Native American markings and tree markers and that types of thing. But, as far as an actual teepee structure in the woods, I've never come across one. But I would have to 100% equate anything of this type of structure to people and not to a Sasquatch. I've seen people claim that even something like this that they found in the woods would be from a Bigfoot. And it's just like, really? Would an animal really be that anal about how they put things together? I mean, gorillas build nests by, pulling down a bunch of trees and shitting in it and then swirling it around a couple of times.
Well, but gorillas don't have to deal with the cold and the snow and other things like that, which are what these temporary structures were kind of meant to do. Okay, so we're going to keep our body heat in, and by creating this cone shape with a small entrance, whether you had a fire or not, you kind of you got things, you kind of wrapped yourself in a blanket per se, and kept the wind off and kept the snow and the rain off and all that.
This could have very well easily had a tarp wrapped around it for all we know, and been a tarp enclosure.
Very, very reasonably, actually. Like probably that one probably wasn't covered completely with the foliage like everything else, and it doesn't look like it's old enough to be. So that would probably be a really good example of you wrap a tarp, make the entrance, and so now all of a sudden you have that same structure, but it's partially man-made.
Yeah, it's crazy. So. Just, while you're out there, keep your head amongst yourself. Not everything is Bigfoot. Bigfoot are a very elusive, rare animal. I know everybody likes to think they're in their backyard and that everybody has, the Sam Squanch living, right off of their apartment complex. But unfortunately, that's just not the case. Keeping things realistic is what we're going to look for this year in the new season. We're going to be looking for realistic research. We're not going to be delving into portals. We're not going to be delving into the woo. We're going to be looking for people who are really out there looking for answers of the biological creature known as Bigfoot. David, how do you want to wrap up this year, buddy?
By I don't know. It's been a good year for the show. Not the greatest year for the Sasquatch stuff.
It's been
but I'm sure we'll review that.
That's where we're going to come up in the new year. First year will be, of course, our year in review. I want to thank everybody for watching. We over 2 million views we hit here recently. We're well over 5,000 subscribers and still growing every single day. We say thank you. If you want to send us an email, it's sloungepodcast@gmail.com. The YouTube channel is youtube.com/sloungepodcast. Squatchitall.blogspot.com will be coming back big in the coming new year. And you can find our fan page at facebook.com/sloungepodcast. Give it a like. Tell your friends. Bigfoot Entertainment Weekly is coming back next season. I don't care whether you people like it or not. We're going to jam it down your throat until you're happy with it. And more Bigfoot campfire stories are on the list of stuff to get done. David's going to continue raising his little family and being the best podcast second seat ever.
Yes. And maybe, just maybe, we'll get out into the woods this year.
Oh, dude, we got to do something. We'll have to plan something for summertime again this year. That is for sure. That's going to do it for us on this edition of the Squatchers Lounge podcast. Everybody, we want to thank you so much for watching this season. And for the Dr. David Backdoor pseudoscientist, I am your host, the Reverend Jeff Kelly. We say thanks for watching, and may the Squatch be with you. Bye-bye. Take care. See you next season.
So long, and thanks for all the squatches.
So long, and thanks for all the PB&Js. Prints are available for the artwork of the Squatchers Lounge at leslosner.com. He's got free prints available, so if you want to order them, I would order them now. They're shipping in early February. So check them out. They're like $15 or less. Like, holy crap, man, I'm not making that. That's for the artist. Check it out, leslosner.com.